With every new Paradox game, new players are asking themselves whether to take the leap into this vast and deep universe of grand strategy. As Paradox tend to release new games fairly rarely, it can be a big decision, especially when each game develops and expands so much over time. Believe me, as a guy with several favorite historical time periods, both setting and game mechanics ultimately decide what I play, and I'm sure you're the same way. Sometimes they intersect, sometimes they don't, and that's when the big dilemma shows its ugly face. Well, my friend, in this video, I'm going to guide you through the various series in this specific genre, and give you an overview over which of the latest titles in each one you might want to play first, depending on your tastes, passions, and grand strategy desires. And let's begin in chronological order, shall we? First up is Imperator Rome. Launching back in 2019 and quickly becoming the black sheep of modern Paradox games, Imperator sadly did not get off to a great start. With missing features, messy mechanics, and suboptimal pacing, it just failed to bring that true grand strategy experience. But luckily, Paradox greatly updated and revamped the core game mechanics with several free expansions. And I say luckily because Imperator Rome has all the trappings of an awesome game, and right now it actually is. Imperator Rome takes place during the age of the Roman Republic and the first major expansions of Rome in Italy. Rome must of course deal with Carthage to assert itself as a true hegemon. But Rome is not all there is. The game focuses equally as much on the Hellenistic Diadochi factions in the east, a battle royale pitting the mighty heirs of Alexander against each other. In addition, tribal peoples all over the world demand attention, and might pose a threat to the larger civilizations in due time. Imperator allows you to play all of these on a massive and gorgeous map of the ancient world, using perhaps the most beautiful UI in Paradox history, but mechanically, it's quite different from the rest of the games. In Imperator Rome, you assume the role of the spirit of the nation, as you have a hand in various aspects of state. Here you'll have to navigate politics and ambitious actors, diplomacy on a grand scale, and importantly, develop your cities through trade and industry. The best parts of Imperator are arguably these last 2 points. Diplomacy in Imperator is excellently complex yet clear to the player, having various ways of subjugating other nations, while slowly annexing and integrating them into your own over time. A diplomatic range feature means that you cannot interact with too far away countries, and there are even diplomatic rankings here which determine your international standing. This means that Rome can in fact expand by virtue of divide and conquer, not just warfare. Additionally, warfare in Imperator is excellent. In the example of Rome, you begin with army levies, meaning a non-professional army drafted during wartime. But as you progress, Rome gets access to actual standing legionary armies, where individual legions can obtain traditions and legacies depending on their experience. It's an awesome system right now and brings so much joy and depth to warfare in Imperator, and it's absolutely one of my favorites because of this. What's more though, trade and development is fantastic in Imperator. Here we have a number of trade goods, with some found only in certain provinces around the world. Trade happens both between provinces and between states, and trade not only earns you money, but trading and owning certain resources are actually vital for your state. For example, it's impossible for Rome to maintain their legionaries without access to iron, and you can only use cavalry or even elephant units if you have access to horses or elephants. Imperator Rome is not as personal as Crusader Kings, although characters are important in this game, but it definitely has that overarching feel of EU4. Despite the updates, it continues to be a diamond in the rough, but a diamond nonetheless. If you love the Roman Hellenistic period and find the interplay of politics, diplomacy, trade, and warfare exciting, Imperator Rome is honestly a fantastic game right now, and I highly recommend it. Next up, we're moving slightly closer to our own time now with the one and only Crusader Kings 3. Taking place over an enormous amount of time, it's actually possible to begin as early as 867 and end all the way over in 1453, essentially taking us from the Viking Age to the fall of Constantinople and the end of the Middle Ages. Just like with Imperator, this is a game about expansion, diplomacy, and warfare, but it's radically different in virtually every aspect. Crusader Kings 3, as the only Paradox series, focuses first and foremost on characters. This means that you're not playing as the Kingdom of Norway. No, you are playing as the King of Norway. Around you are not other states making decisions, but people within those states shaping those states. If you see color on the map, you can be certain that there are people within those colors. In essence, everything in Crusader Kings 3 revolves around people. And let me tell you how this works. Characters in Crusader Kings 3 are highly multifaceted, meaning they deal with everything from warfare to personal development, subterfuge, statecraft, and even interpersonal relationships. Each character has a religion, a culture, a language, parents, and they can come to have partners and children. Importantly, when a character dies, you continue playing as your main heir, meaning the game potentially changes with every character. This is integral to Crusader Kings 3, because it also touches on the perhaps most important aspect of the game, namely that each character has or can come to obtain or inherit titles and claims. Titles are alpha omega in Crusader Kings 3, and without titles, you are nobody. And if you lose all your titles, you actually lose the game. Titles determine your power in this game, as being a king means you have the title of king, being the duke means you have the title of duke, and so on, but it's always tied to a certain location. For example, being the king of France means you have the title King of France, but what makes Crusader Kings so fun is that a number of other characters may have claim to your title and even fight you for it, even your own children. Crusader Kings 3 manages to stay fun even though you reach the top of your local food chain, because you not only have to worry about other realms all over the world, but even your subjects who might rise up against you. Here you collect taxes and soldiers through vassal contracts, you find a spouse and marry them to create the perfect genetic offspring or to get a claim on the title you want, as children inherit those titles. You develop your realm with buildings which increase tax income and army sizes, and wage for claims both outside and inside your own realm. Crusader Kings have unique cultures which are unique depending on historical strengths, and its religions allow you to mimic the past, or indeed forge your very own religion and culture if you're powerful enough. You even change your kingdom laws, allowing you to determine who can inherit what, your personal power versus that of your vassals, and you research new technology that takes your culture further than others. Crusader Kings 3 might lack the trade, the economic depth, and that massive scale of some of the other games on this list, but it certainly makes up for it with the most fun stories, that unique touch of being a character-focused game in a grand strategy format, and all of it taking place in the medieval period, all the way from Portugal to India. It's beautiful, engaging, and arguably easier to learn than the other games on this list, and it's a great place to begin if you're new to games like these. Next up is perhaps my most played game of all time, namely the absolutely fantastic Europa Universe 4. Now here is the Paradox game arguably most deserving of the title of Grand Strategy. EU4 spans the time period directly following Crusader Kings 3, beginning in 1444 and ending in 1821, marking roughly the 400 years time between the fall of Constantinople and the end of the Napoleonic Wars. In other words, this is a dynamic game which depicts massive changes in Europe especially, but elsewhere as well, going from mostly medieval-like societies to semi-industrial nations. This is actually represented by unique ages, simulating the passing of time, modernization, and the strong currents flowing through nations at the various points in time. EU4 puts you in the shoes of the state. There are very few characters to speak of here other than your head of state and advisors, but EU4 manages to feel personal in other ways. Here, the state is the main focus, but it's more colorful than you think. Every country has a mission tree with landmark achievements. These can be accomplished as you play, and even though some of them attempt to steer you in a historical direction, there's a ton of freedom and possibility here, and you never have to complete them at all. For certain factions, these are completely unique as well, meaning they're tailor-made for that specific country. EU4 essentially allows you to tailor your country by making it focus on various ideas, which in turn give corresponding benefits. These will, as time goes on, make countries highly diverse and inherently unique, and choosing the right ones for your playstyle makes each new campaign different from the last. Internal strife is simulated here as well through powerful institutions, symbolizing the power struggles between nobles, religious, and mercantile factions. Of course, there's technology to research here as time goes on. Religion is as important as ever in the first half of the game, where both crusades occur and the 30 Years' War will see the rise of Protestantism clash with the Catholic hegemony. And of course, we have the matter of exploration and colonization. Essentially, wherever you begin in EU4, you're only able to see the parts of the world your region has discovered. This means that Europeans have no idea what lies beyond the shores of Iberia, or what's happening in East Asia. Similarly, The Japanese have yet to explore Australia. Exploration and the race for colonies, for all factions around the world, gives EU4 that larger scale, and the world opens up like a flower as you play and the years go by. There is just so much in EU4 that I'll have to refer you to my in-depth review of the game for more. But in short, Europa Universalis 4 is an amazing game that keeps on giving, and no matter where or who you play as, the game will feel different and fresh every single time. And if you're a fan of that early modern period and the age of exploration, there is no way this game will let you down. I'd know. And now for the very latest Paradox game, the newly released Victoria 3. Victoria 3 picks up the mantle after EU4, and spans the century between 1836 and 1936, essentially beginning with the crowning of Queen Victoria, and ending in the interwar period following the First World War. In other words, this is a period of industrialization, the rise of truly globe-spanning empires, and the fall of regional hegemons. Victoria 3, just like Imperator, Crusader Kings 3, and EU4 before it, differs from each of these in a variety of ways. Here, we're not assuming characters or the state, but something more akin to the spirit of the nation again, where you influence various aspects of it, but rarely have the final direct say in all matters. The economy and trade take center stage here, in a game that mixes supply chains, resources, and production with grand strategy. The most important thing here is the development of your nation, and how industrialization influences your people, their employment possibilities, and the powerful interest groups within the country. Whereas Crusader Kings 3 had various characters living within your kingdom, Victoria 3 has markets which can hold several countries, and the larger your market, the more power to you, especially if you're the leader of said market. Here, goods are traded and used to develop your economy and people's standard of living, and because of this, playing tall in Victoria 3 is actually just as much fun as playing wide. What's more, just like in Imperator Rome, Victoria 3 offers characters that lead political parties seeking to influence the path of your nation. But you must influence the winds of change here, and vote to enact new laws, everything from the ones governing your very head of state, to armies, economic systems, and welfare policies, so that even decadent empires might have a chance of re-emerging as powerful industrialized powers. The entire world is your playground in Victoria 3, but even so, the game focuses arguably more on the internal workings of your state and economy rather than expansionist warfare, along with an array of diplomatic options, and warfare itself has changed quite drastically. Instead of leading individual armies on the map, we now take a more top-down approach, outfitting our soldiers with better gear and weapons, recruit our generals, and then order them to front lines, where they do the fighting themselves. It's certainly more hands-off, but I think it's a very interesting and fun concept. As Victoria 3 is brand new, there's a large amount of patching and fixing to be done here for sure, before everything works optimally or as intended. For even though warfare is deeper than ever, there is a lack of information surrounding the battles and how they work. In this case, if you are completely new, you might want to at least be aware of this before beginning your game, even though it works well enough for me to love it already. And thus, if you love the age of new imperialism and even World War I, and want a game focusing on economics and trade, then Victoria 3 might just be the Paradox game meant for you. And now we made it to Paradox's arguably most popular game yet, Hearts of Iron 4. Hearts of Iron 4 focuses entirely on World War II, beginning with the lead up in 1936 and ending in 1948. Again, the entire world is present here, and any nation you see on the map may actually be played. Now Hearts of Iron 4 again focuses on entirely different things than the other games on this list, despite also touching on many of the same aspects. Here, warfare is the quintessential mechanic, and it's virtually infinitely deeper and more complex. Not only do you have to give specific battle orders and formations to your armies, but you must follow them as they go along, feint retreats, orchestrate breakthroughs and encirclements, and really pay attention to what's going on here. It's also vital to research the right technologies and innovations to keep up with the arms race and industrialization, and the starting situation of the various countries mimic their historical standing at the time. This means that while Germany begins in quite a comfortable spot, the Soviet Union is severely lacking in proper industry, while France and Britain are still reluctant to begin a new war only 20 years after the end of the first one. In fact, the latter are in the beginning not even physically able to go to war unless the situation calls for it, as a system of world tension dictates the overarching necessity to fight wars against dictatorships. Not only that though, there's an air force and a navy to manage and customize as well, making war the all-encompassing feature of Hearts of Iron 4. There is of course state management here as well, but in a more overarching way. The most important of the features here is the focus tree, where you choose historical or alternative paths for your country. These not only help you on your way by providing valuable modifiers and buildings and opportunities for expansion, but it's a great way to simulate a country's progression and political ambitions. In the same realm, we even have a political system here, with parties, advisors, and leaders. Parties and leaders may change depending on their support, and it's even possible to influence other countries' politics by meddling in their affairs. All of these political systems work alongside the warfare itself, taking center stage depending on when in the game you find yourself. More than any other Paradox title, we have a mostly peaceful period often up until 1939, when the war completely takes over for many factions. In this way then, it's vital that you both learn and enjoy the game's combat system. And if you do, Hearts of Iron 4 offers a truly unique and immersive experience, perhaps a bit less personal than the other games, but arguably much more intense and tactical. And finally, we made it to the game that takes all of this into the universe and among the stars, Stellaris. Stellaris is a game set in space, a vast galaxy of humans and aliens beginning in the year 2200, but has no real end date. Just like the other games, Stellaris is a deep real-time strategy game, but it works very differently from the rest. Instead of running states and provinces, you manage entire planets and even systems of planets. And like Hearts of Iron, Stellaris offers various phases to its campaigns. The first has you begin exploring the galaxy, charting star systems and the links between them, finding ancient relics or even alien civilizations. This is partially what makes Stellaris so infinitely unique and special. It's so insanely mysterious and dark and vast, and more than almost any other game, it's made me feel like I'm the first to discover some old lost truth. That I exist in was essentially a deep dark void, but at the same time having to contend for supremacy with aliens I have yet to even meet. Stellaris is certainly more 4X than Grand Strategy, even though it combines the two extremely well. Here we have our government and policies influencing our factions, research technology, and we pick focuses which once again makes our faction especially suited to various styles of gameplay. Resources are particularly important here, which we largely obtain from asteroid or planet mining and developing our cities. Some planets are better suited for habitability than others depending on your species, and some discovered planets might even house certain horrors or challenges you cannot foresee. Of course, diplomacy and warfare are also big parts of Stellaris, and especially warfare looks absolutely fantastic. Here, the space battles are animated beautifully, and you really feel the power of an intergalactic space empire when it shows up with massive destroyers and planet-killing weapons. Stellaris is just so much deeper and so much more engaging than other sci-fi strategy games because of that Paradox deep dive into various aspects of state, diplomacy, and military. And when we factor in the various endgame scenarios like the rise of ancient civilizations or AI uprisings, Stellaris has something truly unique to offer, and might be more fun for those craving a somewhat more fast-paced and mysterious experience. And that was every latest title in every Grand Strategy series from Paradox. I've spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours in every single one of these, precisely because they're so damn good, and specifically because each one differs so vastly from the last. If you like one more than the other, or if you have any thoughts or questions, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, I hope you leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to the channel. If you want to support me further, consider becoming a YouTube member or patron. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.